Welcome to Mark's British Airways Fleet Update, looking at short and long-haul fleets.
It's time once again for the British Airways Fleet Update here on Marks, Trains, Planes and Trams. We'll be looking at all the latest developments across the short and long-haul fleets, including the CityFlyer and Euroflyer subsidiaries. Make sure you like this video and drop us your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel and click for notifications. Now, let's get going with this week's update.
Welcome to the British Airways Fleet Update. Apologies for the late arrival last time. That gives us a slightly shorter window this time, but still quite a bit to be talking about, short and long haul. The headlines, well, the A380 fleet has consolidated. We haven't seen 3 or 4 weeks of good performance like we've been enjoying recently. I keep wondering if potentially my positive comments will be the kiss of death, but at the moment the A380 fleet behaving itself. A little bit of clarity on the scrapping program for the Airbus A319s and A320s, with some evidence that perhaps we'll see one of the A320 Neos very shortly, and a bit of a dip in Dreamliner availability. We'll also talk about one of the incidents with Dreamliners from a few weeks ago. So moving on to the British Airways CityFlyer fleet, the Embraer 190s. Couple of incidents to pick up. Lima Charlie Yankee Juliet diverted into London Southend with what appears to be weather impacting London City on the 3rd of September. BA 8701 up from Edinburgh. The next return flight, the BA Edinburgh, was cancelled, and Lima Charlie Yankee relatively unusual that movement, because normally when they have a diversion into Southend, they move the aircraft back to London City for its next flight. Lima Charlie Yankee November flew as the CityFlyer 772. Again, quite unusual to have an aircraft not operating with the BA flight number. BA 8739 Glasgow London City was the original flight number. That aircraft diverted into Southend on the 1st of September, running quite late, arriving after the London City curfew into Southend at 22:58. Didn't rush to get that aircraft back. It remained on the ground at Southend until the following afternoon, and then flew the CityFlyer 9760, which was a special positioning flight back to London City the next day on the 2nd of September. So that's the update from the Embraer 190s at CityFlyer. Let's move across to Gatwick and have a look at the Euroflyer fleet. No aircraft away for maintenance once again, but Echo Uniform X-Ray Mike has been out of use at Gatwick since the 29th of August, expected to originally return to traffic on the 8th of September, but that appears to now be postponed. No news yet on the transfer of aircraft in from Heathrow, although I suspect that might be about to change. So relatively quiet week. A little bit of an update on the Titan wet leases. Papa Oscar Whiskey Mike continues on the wet lease to Iberia, having previously been in service for British Airways. Papa Oscar Whiskey Kilo remains on lease to BA Euroflyer. And Airbus A321 Oscar Alpha Tango Whiskey returned, as we predicted in the last edition, with a move off lease as the Griffin 9750 London Gatwick to Stansted on the 2nd of September. Across at London Heathrow, the mainline Airbus short-haul fleet, we see Tango Tango Oscar Echo at Glasgow since the 5th of August for maintenance. Tango Tango November also at Glasgow since the 6th of September. It's just arrived, that one. And Echo Uniform Papa Zulu, which is one of the Airbus A319s that was marked up for early withdrawal. That has arrived in Malta, as we mentioned last time. It's an unplanned C-check, life extension work, and we'll see that aircraft back in service quite soon, but not probably being withdrawn as quickly as planned. Sister aircraft Echo Uniform Papa Golf operated the BA 539 back from Rome Fiumicino, 3.5 hours late to London Heathrow. Didn't appear to have been granted dispensation to have a late landing at Heathrow and diverted into Birmingham, arriving at 23:33. Not so clear to me why Gatwick or Stansted were not used. Who can accept night flights? The passengers were sent back to London and back home by road. Echo Uniform Papa Golf remained on the ground at Birmingham, and its positioning flight, the BA 9256, the next day. Looking at its departure time, it sort of flew just over 12 hours after it arrived, which suggested the flight crew stopped over in a hotel and after rest were given the job of moving the aircraft back to Heathrow. As soon as it arrived at Heathrow, it was operating the BA 702 to Vienna. Delta Bravo Charlie Delta Airbus A319 flew out on the 3rd of September to Toulouse, but the return flight 373 was cancelled due to a technical fault. The aircraft eventually returned 2 days later. BA 9270 Toulouse to London Heathrow has remained out of use on arrival at Heathrow. Airbus A319 Delta Bravo Charlie Alpha flew out to Budapest on the BA 870 on the 3rd of September, but its return working the next morning was cancelled. The aircraft returned on a positioning move later that day, the BA 9279, and Airbus A321 November Echo Oscar Sierra flew BA 564 London Heathrow to Milan Linate on the 4th of September, unable to operate the return 565, and the aircraft stayed on the ground at Milan all day, came back that evening as the BA 9271 Linate to London Heathrow. And similarly, November Echo Oscar Victor over in Berlin came out from London as the BA 992 on the 3rd of September. Couldn't operate back on the 993, remained on the ground at Berlin and into the following day, and that evening eventually came back as the BA 9278. Finish off the story of that pilot circuit training in Shannon we updated you on last time. The aircraft came back as the BA 9261, that's Echo Uniform Yankee Juliet, back into London Heathrow on the 3rd of September and straight onto the BA 464 down to Madrid. Little bit of news emerging on Flyer Talk that Tango Tango Sierra Bravo, which is one of the A320s we should have had delivered a long time ago, got delayed by some collision damage. Originally penciled in for November. Looks like we're going to see that aircraft a couple of months prior to that date. I nearly said prematurely, but on the basis the aircraft is running a year or two late, I don't think there's anything premature really about it. Other aircraft completed but not yet ready for delivery. And just an update on the scrapping program. We posted a slide on this show back in the spring with some predictions. I mentioned it briefly last time. We just have a little look at what's happened. The first 5 of the aircraft on that list have in fact been withdrawn from service, dispatched to St Athan in South Wales. That is the airport code DGX that you see there with the date this year that they arrived. Mike India Delta Oscar has somehow managed to evade the cutter's torch and continues to fly out of London Gatwick for British Airways Euroflyer. One suspects its days are numbered. Airbus A319 at Heathrow Echo Uniform Papa Zulu has been dispatched to Malta for a C check, and therefore seems to have a little bit of a reprieve. And then we've got 4 of the Airbus A319s coming up for withdrawal. Currently at the end of September, I think that will be a bit of a challenge to achieve. 1 at the end of October, 2 at the end of November, 1 at the end of December. I suspect the winter timetable introduction will allow the service to be thinned very slightly, but there are late deliveries, so it might be that Echo Uniform Papa Zulu is not the only aircraft to be sent off for an additional C check. Moving across to the long haul fleet and the Airbus A350s, X-Ray Whiskey Bravo Bravo remains in Bordeaux for its maintenance check. Just a reminder that the longer term strategy for British Airways is to get that sort of work done in-house down at Cardiff, and work continues on the hangar at Cardiff to make that possible. And I can tell you X-Ray Whiskey Bravo Delta was flying out to Phoenix as the Speedbird 9 Charlie Golf on the 1st of September. It diverted on approach into Las Vegas due to what I think is the weather at Phoenix. On the ground less than 2 hours, and it then was able to continue as the Speedbird 9 Charlie Golf Las Vegas across to Phoenix. So it arrived at 21:58 in Phoenix instead of 18:30. And the BA 288 on the return operated, but round about 3 hours late. Another good week for the Airbus A380. Lima, X-Ray Lima Echo Charlie is in Manila for its full maintenance set. We hope to see that aircraft emerging at some point soon, and continue to hear suggestions about the refresh program starting in the autumn. Currently believe that work will happen in Manila alongside the current program of checks. So watch this space. Let's see how that progresses. On the 777 fleet, we spoke last time about Yankee Mike Mike Papa. That's returned now from maintenance at BA Cardiff. Flew back on the 4th of September as BA 9170 Cardiff to Gatwick. Immediately started another period on loan from London Heathrow, working the soon to be extinct BA 2273 out to Kennedy, and remaining on subsequent days on Gatwick long haul. Victor India Romeo on loan Heathrow to Gatwick, flew as the BA 9171 into Cardiff on the 5th of September for maintenance, where it remains. Yankee Mike Mike uniform remains under maintenance at Cardiff as well since the 20th of August. Victor India Juliet was reported in the last edition in trouble over at New York, causing the cancellation of the BA 178 from JFK on the 1st of September. It remained on the ground until the 3rd of September, when it returned as a daytime empty trip BA 9179 back to London Heathrow, and then deployed straight into traffic on the BA 159 out to Bermuda. And then finally on the 777s, 777-200 Victor India Kilo from the Heathrow fleet. That flew out to Gatwick on the 1st of September. BA 9176 appears to have undertaken a bit of maintenance at Gatwick and then returned 4 days later, BA 9172 Gatwick to London Heathrow, with commercial duties resuming the next day. And that moves us across onto the British Airways Dreamliner fleet, the 3 different types of 787 that are in that fleet. The BA 7878 Zulu Bravo Juliet remains in Cardiff for Club Suites fitment. Been there since the 2nd of September. Now, we talk about Club Suites fitment, but of course the World Traveller Plus, the World Traveller cabins also get new seats. The cabins are spruced up, new in-flight entertainment goes in, so it's a bit more than just club suites. Zulu Bravo Kilo Alpha on a similar programme remains in Cardiff for the first-in-class fitment of the 787-9's been there since the 23rd of July, probably expecting that aircraft to be out of use 3 or 4 months in total, waiting authorization and certification. Zulu Bravo Kilo Echo returned from Boston with a maintenance defect on the 29th of August. It had had 3 days on the ground at Boston Logan, was then allocated to pick up the BA225 out to New Orleans, but after taxiing to the 27 right hold, it remained there for what appears to be about 3 hours, eventually rescued by an airport tow truck and returned to the gate. BA225 and 224 were cancelled. The aircraft was repaired, returned to traffic 2 days later, heading out back to Boston on the 31st of August as the BA203. Worth picking up that Zulu Bravo Juliet Kilo was due to operate out to Austin, Texas as the BA 187186 on the 2nd of September. They were cancelled. The aircraft was diverted and utilised to fly the BA 171170 London Heathrow to Pittsburgh and back. And I thought finally we'd talk about one of the aircraft that I briefed you on before, Zulu Bravo Kilo India on the 7879 fleet has come to our attention, having incurred the cancellation of BA6 from Tokyo Haneda to London Heathrow on the 10th of August. The aircraft remained on the ground and was repaired, ready for its return back to London. BA9171, an empty flight on the 15th of August, but they had to abort the climb and divert back to Haneda in Tokyo. Eventually, British Airways was able to get the aircraft ready for a successful return on the 18th of August. But a YouTube video has emerged of that troubled BA9171. Let's just take a listen now to what was going on during that flight.
Speedbird 9171 departure.
Speedbird 9171, we're past altitude 2100, climbing flight level 250.
Speedbird 9171 departure, radar contact.
Pan, Speedbird 9171. Request direct to Denny to take up the hold. We have flight control issues.
Speedbird 9171, Pan, Roger, heading 360 please.
Heading 360 degrees, Speedbird 9171. Pan, we're heading 360 degrees.
Speedbird 9171, Tokyo departure. Request your intention. Do you have any problem?
Okay, Speedbird 9171, we are requesting to hold at Denny. We need to run some checklists and then we'll be returning. And also, can we level off at 12,000 feet or less?
Speedbird 9171, may I ask you the nature of your problem?
Speedbird 9171, we have a flight control issue and we need to run some checklists before we can return, but we won't be continuing.
Okay.
Just for information, with the flight control issues, we will be having to return to Haneda, but we need to jettison some fuel, which will probably take around 40 minutes. Will we be able to jettison in the Novel area?
Speedbird 9171, anytime your results are approved.
Thank you. We're in the hold and clear to dump. Speedbird 9171.
Speedbird 9171, change frequency 1265, 1265.
1265, Speedbird 9171. 12 and Speedbird 9171. We have now completed our fuel dumping. Press radar vectors for a 20-mile approach, ILS 16 left.
Seabird 9171, sound looking 1803 intercept, cleared for ILS runway 16 left approach.
Speedbird 9171, runway 16 left, cleared now, wind 290 at 3.
Clear land 16 left, Seabird 9171.
Well, I hope that's of interest, gives an insight into some of the real challenges that a flight crew can face in the cabin. And final slide on the Dreamliner fleet shows the position of the 787s. There are 7 aircraft unavailable, 3 787-8s, 1 stored at Cardiff waiting Rolls-Royce engines and then Club Suites fitment, 1 in London waiting Rolls-Royce engines, 1 in Cardiff just having started Club Suites fitment. 1 787-9 down at Cardiff, first in class fitment, 3 787-10s, 1 at Cardiff, 1 at Heathrow, pending engine replacements, and 1 at London Heathrow that's been stopped for nearly a year.
To breaking news now, and we are learning more about the Mayday call from a British Airways flight before it made an emergency landing at Sydney Airport this afternoon. This is a live shot of the aircraft, which was forced to turn around over the state's central tablelands after it ran into trouble.
Bound for Singapore and just over an hour after taking off, a British Airways Boeing 787 Dreamliner was back where it started. During that time, it was the subject of a full-scale emergency, the pilot issuing a rare and serious Mayday call over the city of Orange.
Hello, it's Mayday 3016 Heavy. I was just about to come fully established on 34 left. We'll have to stop at least a minute on the runway after landing.
More than 200 on board, reports emerging of smoke in the cabin.
216 Heavy, Sydney Tower, G'day. Copy. Mayday ignored.
More than half a dozen emergency vehicles scrambled to the tarmac, witnesses describing a heavy jolt as the aircraft made its emergency landing. But to the relief of everybody, particularly those on board, there were no reports of any injury.
The power went off our screens, there was a smell that they were concerned about, and it was all within the pilot announced that we were turning back.
British Airways issuing a statement this evening. The aircraft returned to Sydney as a precaution after reports of a technical issue. The flight landed safely, and our teams are working hard to get customers' journeys back on track as soon as possible. Mark Burrows, 9 News. And behind me, these are the 200-odd passengers who are on board BA16. They've had to get off the plane, work their way through customs, and are now having to check back in to another flight that will take them to Singapore, so a long night for them. I just should mention as a postscript, I spoke to 2 Qantas pilots who were following that BA flight back in. They say a Mayday call is extremely rare to be issued from a plane. It warns of grave and imminent danger. Well, obviously, everybody here landed safely and they're slowly making their way back to their destination. Peter.
Mark, thank you.
So thanks, that is it for this British Airways fleet update. Thanks to everyone for watching this. Thanks to those of you who like the video on YouTube and engage with a comment or information. Really helps the algorithm, so if you can find a moment to just press the like button and drop me your thoughts or questions in the comments. Also, can I just say thank you very much to everyone who posts on Flyer Talk for your hints, your tips, your information and pointers for deeper research. Check out Flyer Talk for yourself, have a look and see what's there, the latest information, discussions on various matters British Airways. I'll catch you here for another of my videos very soon on Marks, Trains, Planes and Trams.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe and click the notification button so you don't miss any of the great trips Mark has coming your way on this YouTube channel.